We are here to share our experience of receiving healing in the Father's house through witnessing and testimonies. I'm your host, Lisa Keaton, and we are here today to welcome Dr. Sharon Erindalle. How are you today?
I'm good. Thank you. How are you?
I am good. So, Dr. Erindalle, Dr. Sharon, as we're going to call her,
Yes.
is Maxwell Leadership Certified Speaker. She's also the president and CEO of Inspired Wholeness Enterprises. She is a member of the Global Women Speakers Group. She's also the author of 8 books, and she is an ordained pastor, and she's a Christian counselor who specializes in faith-based relationship building. So she is a wonderful woman of God. She is here with us, and we're going to enjoy what she has to talk about. And we're going to talk about lemons from sweet lemonade. So you want to tell us a little bit about your journey?
My journey, it's broken up into pieces, right? So everything has been a lemon, but at the end of the day, it became sweet lemonade for me. And so that's why I wrote that blog, Lemons for Sweet Lemonade. It wasn't really for me, it was for others who are getting their own taste of sour lemons out there and just need to embrace it, squeeze it, and make it sweet. And so I'm not sure which part of my journey you want me to talk about because everywhere you go, there's been some fire, right? But
Right.
fire leaves ashes. And the Bible says God gives us beauty for ashes. And so the idea is to rise from it. And that's where most people get stuck, not being able to rise. So if I were to talk about my journey, it really started along in 1999 when a hurricane came through New York, of all places. And I was in the house with my children. And I've told this story over and over. And so for those of you who've heard it before, I hope I could put a new twist to it. But told it, and because all of a sudden everybody wants to hear the story. It's helping people, and that's the reason to tell it. So we were in the basement of a townhouse that we had, and I was married at the time to my children's father, but it was just my children and I in the house, and there was a lot of rain. I had never seen a hurricane before. Now I live in a hurricane state. How but never. So I'm looking at the glass door. It was huge, and the water is coming in. I could feel it when I pressed my foot down on the carpet. I could feel the water coming in. My children were 6 and 8. I put them on the stairs. I said, just stay there, because I didn't know what was going to happen.
Right.
And then I started trying to salvage everything because I was a fashion designer at the time, and I was about to open my very first store. And I had all the designs there, everything was there. And the water just kept going up the door. It was going so fast. I stood there going, what in the world, where's it gonna go when it gets to the top? Well, I soon found out because it caved right into the house
Oh,
with all
wow.
the water rushing. It looked like we were on a muddy beach somewhere, and the glass was coming at me, and I couldn't move. I remember just being stuck in that moment, wondering, okay, so this is it. This is how it's going to end. And my daughter screamed, and that's what kind of woke me up.
Mm-hmm.
I just kind of ducked under the door and flew up the stairs and grabbed them and ran and swam out of that thing and kept going and going and going against the water with my son screaming and carrying on. It's a lot of screaming and carrying on going
Yes.
on. And when we got back to the house, eventually their dad came and he saw all of it, and we'd sat there like 7 feet of water.
Oh, wow.
everything was on top of the water. All my designs, a lot of clothes, a lot of things, but we were still alive.
Yes.
And for me, that was great. But for him, he said he was done with God. And so it kind of immediately after, because we had to go and live in somebody else's house, we had nowhere to live. He just left. And so I raised my children as a single mom. At the time, it was crucial for me. So, everybody talks about all these degrees, right? You got doctor in front of your name, those things, but they did not come. I didn't plan it. I never planned to get a doctoral degree. As a matter of fact, I dropped out of college deciding I can do this. I could do this. I got my designing thing. I went to FIT, Fashion Institute, for a while. I could do this.
Right.
But I went back to school with a vengeance so I could raise my children. Went hoping to just finish that bachelor's and get that master's and get the heck out of there. But it didn't work out like that. And so that's a part of my lemon story, right? I don't know what else
I think this is wonderful because you were thrown a curveball. I didn't even know they had hurricanes in New York.
No.
I know they have them here in Florida though, but I didn't know they had them in New York. But the fact that what made you keep your faith, because somebody close to you, somebody you was in a relationship, somebody that you cared about, he was your children's father. You know what? He's supposed to be the rock, the pillar of the family, right?
Yeah.
What made you keep your faith?
Initially, I don't even know if I did. You just kind of moved by rote. Like, okay, so you're leaving, I'm staying. So what's the story going to look like? And initially, I tell about it. I wrote 2 books about it. And in the first one, I talk about being in that house where we didn't own that house. My friend, she's actually my spiritual mom. She became like a mom to me. And she would come down the stairs and I could hear you crying, girl. I could hear you. And one night she just came down. It was a year of me that wasn't keeping the faith. That was just me laying on the floor wondering, okay, so what should I do next with my life? And I kept hearing this voice. It's going to be better. It's going to be bigger and better than you ever thought. Who in the world is talking to me? Because at the time, I don't know if I had any more faith left. I even had a friend, her husband would call me and go, Sharon, just groan on the phone. And I would listen to him. I would just groan on the phone because I couldn't find any words to tell it. My children's father was a leader at the church.
Oh, wow.
I thought I would just be assisting the leader. We did a lot of work in Harlem, New York. We would preach on the street. He would preach. I would just be in the background watching and going, wow, this is amazing. And so when all of that happened, it was like, okay, you like being in the background peeling the potatoes, but I'm moving you to you're the potato salad, so to speak. You're going to be the one. And I was like, the one to do what? I just need to take care of these kids. I have no idea about single parenting. My parents stayed married forever until they were out of here. So that was my thing. I'm going to stay married. I'm never going to leave. And so, and if you read the book, you'll see instances where I could have left, but you make that decision because it's a covenant for you.
Right.
And so, but at the end of the day, my faith, where was my faith? I don't know. But I do know this. I never stopped reading my Bible.
Okay.
And, you know, you talk about all these books that I've written, and everybody goes, well, how did you become an author? And I know they're expecting some amazing response. And my response is, I didn't start out thinking I was going to be an author. I just picked up a pen when that lady came down those stairs and said to me, you're not going to die on my watch, young lady.
Mm-hmm.
I give you 24 hours. I'm going to take your children upstairs and I give you 24 hours to get it together. It's like 24 hours. Okay. And she's like 4'11". She looked like a giant to me. And I was like, 24 hours. And she said, yep, that's all you got. I'm taking them upstairs. Do what you got to do, cry, do whatever you got to do. But by tomorrow, you need to make a decision about your future and their future. Because their future hangs on your future.
Right.
And so I had lost 26 pounds. I was just looking amazingly bad. But I always knew how to put my clothes together so nobody could tell that I'm doing bad. So, you know, we give all the answers, blessed and highly favored. I'm wonderful. I'm great. And you show up everywhere, but in your headspace, you're literally losing it. You're losing it. Losing it. And so after she came back that next day, I said, well, I guess I got to go back to school. Tears started coming down my face because I did not want to go. And I picked up a pen while all this was happening. And I don't know if it was a receipt or what was on the ground.
Right.
Because I was on the ground and I started to write what was happening to me. Mm-hmm. I wrote what was happening to me. I mean, I could hardly read it because the tears. I wrote what was happening to me. And I just kept writing and writing. And eventually people started calling it journaling. Right?
Oh, yes. Yes.
Yes. So I had a pile of them. By the time I wrote that first book, I had a pile of them. And I said, well, maybe I should write a book.
Yes, you should.
So I did.
And you know what? It's so interesting that you mentioned that, because when I wrote my first devotional, it was because we were pretty much stuck at home when COVID started, right? And we had a prayer room, and I would just go in the prayer room and I just started writing. It was just there. And there was no special anything that happened. I just started writing what I heard God saying. And then certain things would just leap off the pages at me. And so I put it in the form of, in Word doc. And I would share it with my friend. And after I had like 12 stories, she was like, I think you need to put this in book form and put it in a book. And so I understand what you're saying when you say, it was just something that happened. We just started writing. So that's a blessing.
Yeah.
But I do want to say that the fact that you had someone there help you go through, and take your kids, you a moment is a blessing.
Yeah.
And that's what we are here to do, to help each other, encourage each other. And that's why we need to witness and testify to each other so that you know what the next person can make it through.
Yeah.
And so that's beautiful. That's beautiful. And your book, what's the name of that first book?
The first one was Weapons for Victory, Memoirs of a Perfect Storm. Get it?
Yes. Yes.
So that was the first one. And I was done after that. I was like, okay, that sounds cute. I'm done. And initially I didn't even publish it. I just saved it because there was a lot of information about my children's dad that, I didn't want to share because it wouldn't be fair to them because they didn't know a lot of it. And so, but they both had moved to California and I went to visit them for the first time. My first grandchild was born. And their pastor said to me, she's driving. I've never met this woman before. And she goes, oh, so you have a book? I said, no. Who? No, I don't. I mean, I started and I've kept it. And, I saved the file, but it's not a book. She said, well, it's supposed to be. And that's when I decided to get together with my children and tell them what was in the book
Right.
and ask their permission
Yes.
to publish it.
Yes.
And they gave me their permission, and I published that one in 2013. And then in 2022, I revised it because I realized I had written it from a place of so much pain.
Yes. Yes.
So this time it was from a place of victory. And I was done, and everybody kept asking, so where's the sequel? I mean, I had written books in between: The Shepherd's Call, Embracing Our Queenly Anointing, 31 Days of Wholeness, Christian Divorce Wars. It goes on and on. I even
Right.
collaborated on a book with some other people. And people are asking me for the sequel. I said, well, it's not easy to write a book,
That's true.
especially when you're thinking about it now. Now I'm actually thinking about it. And a lot had happened between that 2013 until last year or the year before when I started the sequel. But what nudged me to do that was I got COVID,
Oh.
and everybody thought I was out of here.
Mm.
My family thought I was out of here. The doctors were not saying anything very positive. But I got out of the hospital. And when they were, they roll you in the wheelchair. And I looked back up on that fourth floor and I said, some people are not going to get out.
That's true.
And I started calling myself a designated survivor.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, Lord, why did I survive?
Yes.
Tell me why. Tell me why so that I could get it done. And a lot of information was coming at me. One of them was I started a second doctoral degree in education in 2015, stopped it because it was rough out there. And I picked it back up, but COVID took my memory. I had brain fog and I couldn't remember anything.
Right.
And my advisor, he called me and he said, okay, I'll walk you through it. This degree, 50% of the people who start it do not finish.
Wow.
50% do. Which 50% do you want to be?
Yes.
And I said, well, I want to be 50% that finish, but I can't remember anything. And he kept sending me all the information and I would print it out because I couldn't, like I'm looking now here, this is fine. But at the time I couldn't see. I couldn't laugh. I couldn't even walk.
Oh, wow.
I couldn't. I wondered one day I stood at the door. I said, if I could get to the mailbox, I know I'll be all right. Because I'm an avid walker. And one day I got to the mailbox and it was 3 months of me being sick, right? And then I went back to that degree and I finished it.
And look, you have so much resilience.
Yeah, I'll call it that now. I mean, it's been quite an interesting journey when you talk about life.
Yes.
And but then you realize other people go through even worse things than you could ever possibly, but God doesn't give you more than you can bear. And I hold that as true because I am still here.
Yes.
And I've traveled to speak. You want to hear me speak about what? Tell your story. Okay. Tell my story. Which part do you want to hear? And I get to tell it now with a big grin on my face because I've been healed.
Yes.
But healing is a process.
Yes.
It is. And I realized that when I went back to school, what do you want the lady said, so what degree are you going to go for? I'm like, give it to me. Give me what you got. I don't know. I mean, I'm a fashionista. What you got? Well, at this particular college, we have education. I said, okay, I'll do that. And then she said, we have a program that could get you the rest of your bachelor's back. And it's called the EDGE program. And I started laughing in her office. She said, well, you laughing? I said, well, I'm living on the edge. So that has to be the one that I'm going to do. And that's the one I did. And it
Right.
got me that bachelor's back. And then I went back for that master's and I was done. But I wasn't done. And so I'm still not done. You never really finish. You
Right.
get to a place where you just want to keep producing
Yes.
stuff, because you want a legacy, behind your name. You want to die empty,
Right.
not full with all this stuff. So,
So
yeah.
God, I mean, he has really used you in a mighty way.
I knew I was going to make you laugh. I knew I was going to make you laugh.
He has given you a lot of lemons, but you know what? You have gone back and squeezed them and made them into lemonade, because a lot of people they would have just gave up. You would see that lemon laying out there in the yard somewhere rotten. You know what I'm saying? Turning green with mold on it, doing whatever it does to decompose. But you didn't allow that to get you down. So your faith is a lot stronger than you thought, because you got up.
And people,
Right.
I went to an amazing church in New York. I can't ever leave them out. They just, those who knew what was going on, because some people didn't, because they kept asking questions. Where is your husband? I don't know. And to the point where I started sitting in the balcony of the church, because I don't want any more questions. I'm just going to sit up here, and before the benediction, I'll be at my car.
Right.
And I did that for a while, but then I said, I'm going to go back and take my seat. And I started sitting in the front pew.
And that was your seat. So God gave you all those trials and tribulations. He put you was in the back. You wanted to be in the background, remember?
To be in the back.
You wanted to be the potato peeler, right? And he done took you and he done moved you all the way up to the front. Now you are the front.
Yeah.
Being a pastor, right?
I mean, yeah. And the thing is, I've always been, I could always speak. I'm my daddy's girl, right?
Right.
He had no formal education, but when he spoke, you would think he was the most educated man on the planet. So I always had a lot of, you could tell, always had a lot of verbiage, a lot of stuff coming out of my mouth. But because of my respect for the role that my children's father was playing,
yes,
I just said, I'm good. I'm good just praying for people, which is amazing because I've prayed for a lot of people and I still do.
right.
What the journey has taught me is about healing and all the people behind the walls of the church that need healing.
Yes.
Mental health. We don't even want to say those words in church, right? Mental health, that means we're crazy. No, that means you're actually well, because mental health is where physical things start. It starts in your mind usually.
Yes.
And so I get to pray for people. I get to work with people on a daily basis, mostly couples now. Who would have thought, right?
Right.
I work with pre-marriage, marriage, and I get to work with divorce recovery as well. And so, you could say, well, you have a degree. Yeah, I have a degree, but I also have a life that I could actually remember. And when I'm sitting in the room, I could know exactly where these people are and where they're going, and I could reel them back with whatever information I have to give them. And so that's what I do on a daily basis in my practice as a counselor.
That is wonderful. I mean, it's just your journey to get God to get you where you're supposed to be is mind blowing. That is why some of us get to take the easy road, some of us have to take the hard road, but it's all for God's kingdom, it's all for God's glory, so that other people can know you can make it. And I
Yeah,
am so happy that you are still here with us, sharing your story and encouraging other people to know, you know what? You can do it. You
yeah,
can, yeah. And so your faith will make you whole. And that is the beautiful thing is that
yeah.
do you have a favorite scripture or scriptures that you like to share with people or that help encourage you?
It's the one that everybody quotes all the time, for I know the plans that
Mhm.
I have for you, declares the Lord, plans to prosper, not to harm you, plans to give you hope and a future. But then, like I said earlier, what kept coming at me in those early days was it would be above and beyond. I think it's Ephesians 3:20, above what you could imagine.
Yes, and
It's
ask
out
for
of
it.
the, yeah, it's not what it, and a lot of times because we get stuck where we are, we can't move forward. We're just stuck. And I get to talk at a lot of women conferences and different things, whether it's secular or Christian, because I go everywhere. You call me,
Right.
I'm coming. And so I get to let these ladies know, you know, you are not stuck.
That's true.
The problem is I cannot actually pick you up, right?
Right. Right.
Even my friend, that lady, she couldn't literally pick me
Pick
up,
you up.
but she could give me, hey, you're not gonna die. You're
Right.
not gonna die. Not gonna die on my watch. I'm giving you some time. 24 hours seem very short. Um, get it together. Get it
Right.
together. And I'm very, very sometimes really hard
Right.
on people on my woman, especially because I realize where they are. And I
Mhm.
realized she had to be tough with me that day,
Yes.
because if she would have just hugged me and said, oh, it's gonna be all right, everything is good, I probably would have stayed right there
Right
in the
there.
lower floor of her house
Right.
until my children were teenagers or wherever. And
Mm.
but I didn't do that. I got in a car. I drove all the way to Florida one day with my children, and I came to Florida, bought a house with no money. I
Oh,
mean,
wow.
because that's when the market went crazy and everybody was saying it was a recession. And I looked at everybody and said, well, I know what recession looks like, even before it was going on. And I'm seeing all these houses for almost nothing. I'm going to try to buy one.
Right.
And so I took this realtor for the ride of her life. I said, you show me what you got. I'm showing you what I got. This is what I
You
have.
got
What you got for me?
and we're gonna
And
make it work.
we're gonna make it
Mhm.
work. And it did eventually work. And I bought a house, 4 bedrooms, 2 bathroom house for my children. My children didn't even believe that the house was really mine. They were like,
Right.
Mommy, whose house is this? I'm like, this is my house. What do you mean? This is my house. And then to drive the truck from where we were to where we had to be, my son goes, so who's driving the truck? I said, me, this girl. Mommy, have you ever driven a truck? No, sir. But get in, because we got to do this. And we did. We did. And today my son is 30 with 2 daughters. My daughter is 32 with 3 children. I am married to my dream guy. That's what I call him.
Right.
And together we have 5 children and 10 grandchildren. And this is an abundant life to me.
And God has truly, truly blessed you. And He has done some wonderful and amazing things to you. And this has been great. This has been a wonderful
I
conversation.
told you.
So tell us, I know you have a freebie that you would like people to have. So tell us about a little bit about the freebies that you're talking about. I know you mentioned your books. So
Yeah. So, if people just reach out to me, whoever listens to this, and I hope that whoever listens to this, that even though we were laughing and carrying on, you realize that you get to laugh too, right?
yeah,
You get to laugh too. It's a choice. You can choose to laugh or you could choose to cry.
that's
And,
true.
when we cry, we give the enemy so much room.
Hmm.
But when we start laughing, and start making not just lemonade but sweet lemonade, it becomes almost your whole life changes. And so I've written all these books, and so whichever one I feel led, I'm just going to leave it out there. I'm not going to put a title on the book. That I will send to whoever reaches out to me on my website. I have two of them scrolling across the screen: DrSharonErindalle.com or InspiredWholenessCounseling.com. Leave a message, say you listened, say you were blessed, or whatever, and I will send you a book. And when I get to send it, instead of Amazon, you get some little gifts along with the book.
And that is a blessing. That is a
Yeah.
blessing. I just want to say I have truly, truly enjoyed our conversation. This has been wonderful. This has been a blessing. God is so faithful and He is so good. And I love what He's doing. I
Yeah.
just love it so much.
Done a good
And
thing.
we are going to run your story, and I think people will be truly blessed from it. And so God be the glory. Yes.
And you're doing great things too. I just, every time I see one of us out there, I'm just, we don't celebrate each other enough. I
Yes.
celebrate you, my sister, and what you're doing out there for the community and now for the world, right?
Yes.
So bless you indeed.
Thank you. And we'll be seeing you in just a little while, just a moment.
Okay.